Welcome to Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, a podcast that illuminates real solutions to common problems within the parking industry. I'm your host, Brian Wolff, CEO of Parker Technology, and in each episode, I'll introduce you to real parking pros that will bring their own tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks, parking a car. Okay, on the show today is Sue Malone, the owner of Strategies for Small Business. Sue Malone is the president of Strategies for Small Business and a relentless champion for entrepreneurs across America. Since 2001, she's helped fund more than 41,000 SBA loans, a staggering number that includes programs like Patriot Express, Export Express, Small Lender Advantage. Her personal mission, to fund 100,000 small businesses and help them turn their dreams into reality. Beyond lending, Sue is a force in the nonprofit and advocacy world. She's the president of American Economic Empowerment, co-founder of the Women's Military Exchange, Operation Next Step, and one of the visionaries behind vetpower.org, organizations dedicated to empowering veterans through entrepreneurship. Her leadership extends to numerous boards, including the National Forum on Diversity in Construction, the National Institute of Minority Economic Development, the Long Beach Accelerator, Delphi Tech, and one of my favorites, my personal favorites, Ocra. Sue is also a serial entrepreneur in her own right, with over 7 businesses under her belt, including her last venture, nationallienlaw.com, a platform designed to help contractors navigate lien forms and risk management with ease. So in addition to being perhaps the purest example I've ever met of a true Renaissance woman, Sue is single-handedly responsible for plucking one of the most consequential parking software businesses out of obscurity when she helped Ocra secure funding through the Long Beach Accelerator. The reason she knew it was consequential was because Sue was the first woman parking operator in the United States. Now we have got so much ground to cover. Sue, welcome to Harder Than It Looks.
It's great to be here, Brian. Thank you for having me.
This is great. Okay, I'm not sure how you have time to do any of this or all of this, but congratulations on 41,000 SBA loans and good luck on getting to 100,000. That's quite a lofty goal. What I want to do, though, before we get into all of that is I like to hand the mic to my guests and I ask them to go back as far as they'd like to go. You're going to have to get the parking bit in there for sure. But go back as far as you'd like to go and just tell us your story. Like, how did you get from place to place and how did you get the exposures? And that will help those that are listening get to know you a little bit better, but it also will show us certainly the depth of your experience. So the mic is yours. Go back as far as you want. Tell us your story.
Let's see how far back I can remember. That's the key. I've always loved businesses. Even when I was a little girl, I always said to my parents, please take me to the railroad tracks. Take me to where the buildings are. Show me how this works. We'd be on vacation and we'd be driving through the mountains of Oregon. I said, can we stop at that lumber mill and see how they manufacture lumber, how they make it? It's just interested me the whole time. I come from a family of entrepreneurs and we all had to work it. There was no way that we could get out from underneath it because my father would get us up or my grandfather would get us up and off we would go. And so I've always worked. I've always loved it. I love working with people. Everything's a new idea and it's exciting. Can you imagine these? I've had so many different businesses. It's probably because I'm ADD, but I like risk. I like challenges.
That's awesome. Okay, so you would stop at sawmills and want to see how lumber was being made. That's awesome. So take us back to the first business that was consequential. Was it the parking business? It probably wasn't the parking business.
No, it wasn't the parking business.
Okay.
I always worked during high school and I've always worked during college because I'm so ADD and I enjoy it. And I enjoy making money. I believe in capitalism. So it's always great to have money in your pocket.
Yeah.
As we all know, when we're poor college students, we probably had $2.98 and we were trying to buy a $3 beer and trying to figure out where we're going to get the extra 2 cents to do it. All of them have been so great. One thing, when I was in the parking industry, and you can relate to this, the parking garages were in San Francisco. So we're in the financial district. So people would come in the morning and then they would go out in the evening. It's what happened in the middle of the day that always got me in trouble because I had all this extra time. So then I'd start another business to fulfill that bulk of time in the middle. And behind me, you'll see a Dryer's Ice Cream. I did the first for-profit, nonprofit relationship with Dryer's Ice Cream teaching inner city children how to be entrepreneurs. And then I'd have to run back, get the apron off, and then go into the booth and get the cars out, because we didn't have Parker technology. So we didn't have the arm that went down. We had the old tickets from Southland Printing that all had to match.
Jay will appreciate that, Southland. Okay, so you told a couple of good stories about, were there cars being stolen, or you didn't allow people to steal cars? I don't remember the story exactly, but it was fun when you told it the first time.
In San Francisco, one of the largest garages that we had was in the financial district, and it had a basement, it had a main floor, and it had an upper floor. The Russians were coming, and the Russians would come in and still not the Toyota Corollas with dents in it and leading new tire rims. They would still sell the Jaguars, and there was one gentleman in there that had unbelievable Mercedes in it. License plate said killer car. That was the first one that the Russians went after. And what was so interesting is they could get those cars out so fast, strip them, and get them on the boats to wherever they were shipping them. We had the state police, we had the highway patrolman, we had the San Francisco police. These guys were unbelievable. So I finally had to put up a sign that said, if your car is worth $5,000, you can park here. If it's worth anything more, you just can't, because my garage keepers was done at that point in time.
That's hysterical. Okay, that was the hook that I remember. The hook was, you literally said, if it's worth more than $5,000, I don't want you to park here.
My insurance was done.
Yeah. Okay, so then how did you get from parking to SBA loans?
How I got there is because I couldn't get a loan for my parking garage that I really needed.
Okay.
And I thought, this is nuts. I've got to come up with a way to make it work for other people and make it easier. And in parking, there's a lot of cash that goes in and out. So there's a lot of deposits that are made, and it cash flows pretty nicely.
Yeah.
And I had secondary source of income because my husband's a professional, lots of collateral, and I was turned down. And in San Francisco, it's all about the politics. And I went to the main branch, and I knew the branch manager very well. We were in women's group together, and I got turned down. I said, this is nuts. Got to develop a program to make it work for the other person. So that's how I got into it. I stumbled into it, trying to figure out a solution to get a quick working capital loan out to small business owners, with a focus on women at that time, because I'm really old. So it was way back when. And since then, it's everybody.
Yeah. Okay. So the person at the bank was also a woman. So you had a connection there. Okay.
And I knew 4 members of the board of directors because I had done real estate development, and they were all in the real estate world. I thought, okay, this is crazy. Something's got to change. And it was so funny is because, as you can tell, I talk with my hands and I get very emotional. Brian knows me well enough.
That's okay.
So I walked down to San Francisco City Hall. Okay. And we had a parking tax in San Francisco at that time. For every dollar you earned, 25 cents went to the city.
Wow.
So I always had the auditor in. They just loved to audit. I called him Iceman because he had so many diamonds on. So I went down to City Hall to my friend, the head tax collector, and I said, you got to help me out. This is crazy, Andy Begagaluppi. So I called him my Italian stallion. So he helped me get through it all. So there's a lot of people along the way that have really helped me, and I'm always thankful for all of those people.
That's pretty funny. So the other thing that you have to know about Sue Malone is that she literally knows everyone. And if she is ultimately like the 1 degree separated from all of the people that are important. All right. So you founded this, you began a program to get the SBA loans going. It obviously gained steam because then you went from San Francisco. Now you're doing SBA loans or helping people get SBA loans all across the country. Is that fair?
I ended up teaming up with the bank, and they were very entrepreneurial. They were really good guys, 2 really great guys. And no one thought it would work. So we kept knocking on doors till finally it opened up. And I will tell you, there were our timing was really good too, because we had a great administration and leaders within the SBA that all came from small business. So they understood what we were trying to do. So they were really good. And I'm still in contact with the deputy administrator. She's fabulous. And she and her husband have their own business. So they understood how important capital was. So they really helped me along the way. And then when I was doing so many different projects with the veterans and developed programs for that, then the administration asked me if I would tweak it. We'd tweak it and do it a little bit differently. And so that's how I got into it. You know what? I don't care if I fail. I'll pick myself back up and try it again.
Yeah.
I literally, to build this program, because we didn't compete with any local banks. In fact, we made local banks look good. So what we ended up doing is teaming up with the local banks.
Yeah. Okay. You okay there?
Me?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're perfect.
Well, I'm just making sure. I thought it looked maybe like you froze. Okay. Okay. So there was no competition. You were actually teaming up with the local banks, and then the SBA. So maybe we should have you explain the SBA. I think I understand it, but maybe there are people that are listening. What is the advantage of going with an SBA loan? What is it? How does it help you?
How it helps it, because it mitigates the risk to the bank. I want to correct something. We were a bank, but we weren't taking deposits. We were just doing the lending. So
Okay.
in order for the small business owners, we had to deposit into a business banking account. So
Okay.
that's why it works so well with the local banks. Plus,
Yep.
we wanted the businesses to develop a business banking relationship
For
so
sure.
they could build their business and go back and grow it and work with their local bank, because I'm all about local banks and communities. So how the SBA works is it is a guarantee to the lender. So the lender can make riskier loans than they normally would do. And
Okay.
then what happens is it works really well for startups, and then a lot of businesses that don't have a whole lot of collateral. That's where the SBA comes in and mitigates the risk for the banks.
Yeah. Okay. And so you're active today. You're writing loans today through that business. Okay. So you're doing this parking thing, and obviously the parking thing, you sold the lots, or somehow you got out of the parking business, which is rare. You don't really get out of the parking business, but then we dragged you back in. So how did you end up with the affiliation with the Long Beach Accelerator?
A really good friend of mine, she and I had done a lot of work together. We met through the craziest person in the whole wide world. We always laugh about it. We think, oh my gosh, but that's another story for itself. I'll tell you that another time. And we became really good friends. And she lives in Long Beach, and she knows how much economic development I've done around the country in places that no one would ever go. I've been all through the Appalachians. I'm the only one that made loans in McDowell County down in West Virginia, giving people a chance and opportunity. Inner cities, huge in inner cities. So she said, we're putting together an accelerator in Long Beach. I think it's something you could work with. And I said, sure, let's see what it is. I became very involved in it. And then I became head of the admissions committee, and I'm on the executive committee now because I believe in small businesses. I live and breathe for small businesses.
Yeah, that's great. Okay. So I know Ethan's side of the story with Ocra. I want to hear your side of the story with Ocra, because as parking to an accelerator probably isn't very sexy. And so tell us your side of the story when you saw Ethan's application come through.
I saw it come through. In fact, it was so funny that you say this, Brian, because people put it on the side. They said, oh, it's not SaaS. It's not high-end technology. We have all these other ones that came in, because we probably had 125 applications. I said, no, wait a minute. Let's look at this one. And then I saw that they started the old-fashioned way of parking cars, of leasing space and parking cars. And I thought, okay, then what I noticed is they tweaked it to fit a technology that hadn't really been developed yet. There were some other people that were doing it, and I trained a couple other attorneys in the parking industry that ran into me when I was doing the lending, and they said, I just got this great job of being an attorney for a parking company. I don't know what's involved in it. And so I thought, this is crazy. And then I was looking at Ethan's. I said, oh, wait a minute. There's something that's right here that can really work out for everybody. And plus, I really liked the two co-founders. They had something about them. In my equity fund, I bet on the person. You can have the best widget in the whole wide world, but if you can't walk through the door when times get tough, forget it. And these two had swiveled. And that's what I liked. They had swiveled, they had pivoted, they knew what their mistakes were, and they're hard workers, really hard workers. And in fact, I went to bat for them for extra, because they had it. Plus, parking is, as you're in it, it's antiquated. And they had something that was new and was going to be exciting behind the scenes. And they were Switzerland.
Yes. Switzerland's good. I like being Switzerland. So it's so funny. All the things that you saw are I'm recounting the conversations that I had with my board about justifying the investment. And it really did start with these guys built a parking company, and then they decided to solve a problem that they had to solve, which was on a much bigger scale with software. And I'm like, so they demonstrated pivoting, They demonstrated that they can figure out a problem and all of that. And so Ethan and Nate, hopefully they're blushing. But it took you with the trained eye around parking, because otherwise, I think Ethan, I don't remember what he was 0 for 10 or 0 for 12 or 0 for 20 in other accelerators. He lived in LA, so he was all the cool places and with all the cool kids, and they were all getting thrown out because it was a parking location. You literally plucked them out of obscurity, and I think the rest will be history. At least I'm knocking on wood. I think they're off to the races, so they're in good shape. So that's great. Thank you for doing that.
I agree. They're honest, they're hardworking, and they keep pivoting.
Yeah.
They do not stay in that same lane the whole time. When they see something that really works, they just did a huge pivot, and it's been very successful. Again, another pivot.
Yep.
If I can count how many pivots and the stories, because I've been with them from the very get-go. So I've really seen them grow over the time.
Yeah, that's so fun. Okay, so before I lose the thought, let's go back to West Virginia and the loans that you were making. Hey, tell me a story. Is there a success story that came out of the Appalachian Mountain SBA loans?
Yes. I was in a town that was an old coal mining town, and I don't think the whole town had a head full of teeth if you put them all together. But the nicest people, they're Americans, they're wonderful people, and they're all trying to make a living, but they kept selling the same thing over. So it was the same dollar that kept rotating. So this dollar was not increasing.
Yeah.
So I said, okay, I've got these women, they've got talent. Now what can we do? So I went to a designer in New York. I asked for some help, and I don't do grants. I do not believe in grants. People need to have skin in the game. They need to be able to pay it back, because then they know it's theirs.
Yeah.
So we set up some looms, and they ended up blooming and making material, and put together some fabulous knitwear that was in a lot of boutiques across the United States. Then it sold out to somebody bigger. That was in the Appalachians. That's one of the bigger success stories. And then there was another one. It's really cute. There was 2 gentlemen at the end of the Hatfield and McCoy Trail, and they wanted to open up a quick restaurant, but they were Greek, so they wanted a Greek quick restaurant. And there's a lot of Greeks that were in the coal mining industry. So we helped them expand. And so they were very successful too. So those are the 2 that come in the Appalachian area. And then there was another one a little bit farther up along the Ohio River, still in West Virginia. And it was so funny is because I funded them so they could get into a retail store. And just, I want to say maybe 8 months ago, someone was in that town. And I said, oh, by the chance, did you go to that store and see these people? And they said, oh yeah, they're my cousin. I literally funded their cousin. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Okay, but so SBA is one piece of it. Clearly, you're going into areas where nobody else will lend money. You're looking for veteran businesses. You're looking for women-led businesses. The women-led piece that passion is obvious. Tell us about the veteran angle. What was the seed of the veteran piece of it?
Well, what really got me was I was on Camp Lejeune, and it was during, I don't know what war theater it was on. I'm trying to remember the dates way back when, probably 2004, 2005. During George Bush's administration.
Yep.
So 9/11 had happened. So there's a big deploy. So I was on Camp Lejeune, and it was 5:00 in the morning. They asked if I would come. And I said, sure. Planes were coming in, bringing back some of our warriors, and their families were all lining up on the fences, the spouses and their little children. And these kids were 23 and 24 years old. Now they were getting out. They went from 18 to the military, the Marines, then they're coming out, and now what are they going to do? And I said, we have got to save these kids. We've got to give them a chance, opportunity. Not everyone's going to be an entrepreneur, but develop some programs for them so they can determine which way they want to go. If they want to go work for someone, if they want to go work for the government, or if they want to be entrepreneurs. And when I saw all those families, I said, absolutely. And I was in San Antonio. I've been on all military bases. I was in San Antonio, and this gentleman came in. I don't know what organization it was. San Antonio has a lot of military. And a gentleman and his wife came in, and he was on a gurney. He had been really blown up. He has an unbelievable story. And he's now a tattoo artist and has his own tattoo salon in Hawaii. And I funded that and taught his wife how to be a bookkeeper.
Bravo. That's fantastic. Okay, so he's another great success story. So you have a soft spot for the underdog, clearly. And is there other than getting a kick out of it, is there any personal tie back to the underdogs? What's your underdog story?
I never thought about that. I just want to give everybody a chance. What I believe in, I guess my story is dignity, giving people a chance to have their own dignity.
Yeah.
That's what drives me. But you got to meet me halfway. As I said early on, I don't do grants, and don't give me a sob story if you're not going to go work for it. You got to work for it. Yeah, I don't know, because maybe I was an underdog and I didn't realize it because I'm so oblivious that I just keep talking with my hands and walking.
I have this suspicion that to those who have the most, they owe the most. I can't remember that. The phrase. So my sense of it is that you want to give back, but it's not back to charity. I can tell you were a parking person, so you're gritty. You're going to match their output. You're going to work hard. In fact, you just said you got off the plane in London. Can you tell me what you were doing in London?
Yeah, I went to a soccer game. My son said, "Hey, Mom, you want to go to a soccer game and go to a pub?" I said, "Sure." So I said, "I'll tie it in with something," because I have a partner that's in London. We have a micro lending program in the slums of Mumbai. So I said, I'll tie it into that. And so my son and I went to a soccer game. We went to an old pub. I've never seen so much beer in my life, and we had a great time. It was really loads of fun. And how many times do your son ask the mom to go to a soccer game? Gotta go.
Yeah, what a great story. The reason I asked is because the last time we saw each other, you had just gotten back from South Africa. You were talking to somebody in South Africa about almonds.
Yes.
So you are all over the place on all different kinds of missions, as it were. And I can remember, I'm leading to a question here. So I remember you've told stories about having relationships on both sides of the aisle. And so I'm curious how you just made the point about being Switzerland. Switzerland's important to me too. How do you do that? And particularly in a world that is getting more divided every day, how do you maintain relationships on both sides or on all sides? Let's just call it all sides, right? It doesn't even have to be both sides. How do you stay Switzerland but get something done? What's the secret sauce from Sue Malone?
You know what the secret sauce is?
Yeah.
Because I'm working on a big piece of legislation right now for small businesses, for some taxes. Find the people within the Congress on both sides that do not want to be in front of the TV camera. Because the ones that want to be in front of the TV camera have to make a statement so they can raise their money. So when you get away from that TV camera and you work with them, we all pretty much want the same thing. You're going to have the people on the far left. You're going to have people on the far right. So you just stay away from that. But most of the people are in the center, truly in the center.
Okay. That reminds me, I wish I could remember it. And I used to have it written on my whiteboard, but I think I erased it. I saw it was either a senator or a congressman was talking about being a show horse or a workhorse. And he was recommending to this people that worked for him to be a workhorse. That sounds very familiar to me.
It is. And that's who you work with, and they get it done. And in the end, and then they want to use that in their campaign. That's fine, but but it goes on both sides of the aisle, so you get the benefit of votes from both sides.
Yeah, that's great. It's about helping people get what they want, and not giving handouts. Is it a hand up? I don't know why my brain is blanking. Maybe it's because it's late in the day, but
it is.
Normally I've got those quips right at my fingertips. All right, so then, of all of the legislation that you've worked on, tell us a story about something we might recognize.
Right now, I'm working on the R&D taxes.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
That's so you can take it off in the first year and not have to. The last administration amortized it out. So what was happening, there wasn't as much R&D that was being done because they had to pay taxes on it, so they didn't have any money left. So it really stymied R&D. So I'm working on that at this moment because it's very important for R&D and to stay ahead of the game.
Yeah, for sure. So very pragmatic legislation. I could totally relate to that. We spend a lot on what would be R&D, right? Software development. And the ability to take that off the bottom would be super helpful. Okay. So how can I get behind
fingers crossed? It's bipartisan.
How can I get behind that legislation?
I'll email you.
Okay. All right. That's great. Okay. So I'm trying to think.
But you didn't ask me. In my garage, I was a queen of Bondo.
Oh.
No one ever got a dent in any of my garages.
Oh, let's hear that story.
Oh, I had a parking attendant who was just, he was a riot. He's from the Middle East. He was ADD. He was jumping all around. But he could park a lot of cars. But he had a problem. He kept banging into other cars.
Oh, boy.
So I finally had to move him off of that and became the queen of Bondo. By the time they came to get the cars, it was all fixed.
That reminds me of a story that Brett Harwood told where he had inadvertently tore the door off a car for parking it. And so he walked up with his letter of resignation to his manager, and the manager was like, "Are you crazy? You're the best employee I have. There is no way I'm going to let you walk away. Don't worry. I'm just going to send it to the body shop. It'll be back before the customer even knows it was gone."
Exactly.
Right.
And then the other one that got me, because I was really naive, all of a sudden I get a call from the FBI, and they said one of the garages had 2 lower basements and then a main floor and then an upper floor. And they said, "You're a fencing operation." Well, I thought they were doing fencing, like with the swords.
Yeah.
I know they were stealing and selling things out of the back end of the garage.
Oh, interesting. Okay. All right.
Yeah. I grew up really quickly.
Yeah. I mean, I was just talking to someone else today, Kenzie Colson, who's working for Walker, but she's done some parking operations. She was telling crazy stories, crazy parking stories.
Yeah.
It happens. It's a crazy parking story. Okay. So if you had to focus your time, what would you focus if you could, or if somebody said to you, "So you have to stop doing everything except one thing," what would it be? What would you do?
Oh my gosh, Brian, that's a huge question.
I know.
I would still focus on the access to capital for small businesses, because in my hearts of all hearts, it is what runs America. And I don't care if you're a startup or already in business, you need capital to keep going and to come up with new ideas and to hire people and to stay competitive. I would completely focus on that, because the only time people talk about small businesses is when it's an election time and they say, "Oh, small businesses run America." As soon as everyone's elected, they forget about it. So I would stay right in there and just keep badgering them and badgering everybody. Say, "Don't you forget it. With your capital, we need to come up with new ways to develop capital for them, because not everyone wears the same size shoe. So people need different forms of capital that work for them."
Yeah. So I did watch a couple of other podcasts or programs where you were throwing off some statistics. Tell us a little bit about how important small business is to the United States and the jobs market.
Well, first of all, small businesses have developed the most patents. They're the largest exporters, even amongst the tariffs. In fact, it's so funny. I've been working on nothing but tariffs for small businesses right now. And they employ the most people.
Yeah.
And they're the most innovative, and they pay the most taxes. So you have to have them. Every single large business starts small. I don't remember Mr. Hewlett, Mr. Packard crawling around my father's floor measuring for boxes for their computers that they were still designing.
Is that right?
Yeah. Everyone starts small. No one starts at the top. Yeah.
Right.
And it's the true grit that gets you there. And those are the people that I admire the most. The ones that in our equity fund, I will not fund you unless you failed.
Oh, okay. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, you got to fail. You have to fail. And the other thing you have to do is pick yourself back up and try it again. Like with Ocra. How many doors did they knock on to get into Accelerator and they couldn't get into it? That was probably their 21st when they came knocking on our door.
Yeah, for sure. At least your 21st. Okay, so the grittiness, picking yourself up, I can relate to all those things. Okay, so now I'm going to ask you one more question before we go to the lightning round. And the question is, what question didn't I ask you? What should I have asked you? What things would you like to talk about? What's important? Obviously, the small business lending and capital, that's good. But what else should I have asked you?
How more people will not be stopped by their fear. I mean, here you started your own business. And I'm sure at one time you had tons of fear saying, "Is it going to work? I've got a family. I've got to put food on the table. I've got to put a roof on my head." And that's, to me, is the worst word in the dictionary is the word fear. It's because it stops everybody. And you're your own worst enemy. when you started this business, it was like, to me, it's like jumping off a cliff and hoping the parachute opens up.
Yeah.
So you've got to get past the fear.
Yep.
I would really like to see people, if they have an idea, if they want to give it a shot, and who cares if you fail?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so what I appreciate most about that is the same things that make you successful in corporate America, doing what you say you're going to do, paying attention to the numbers, being responsive to the people that you report to, all of those things are also important in small businesses. So if you tell a customer that you're going to do something, you do it. And my experience is that once somebody has good service, they'll generally come back, even if it costs a little more, they'll come back. Your ability to just take the leap, I am telling you, I would encourage everybody to take a leap younger. I suppose I co-founded a business at 39 or something, or 40. So I had obligations, but I was like, okay, I didn't want to wake up in my 50s and I didn't want to have lost the opportunity to take a chance.
Exactly. Because you saw the niche. And so you said, I'm going to go after that niche, because if you don't go after that niche, somebody else is going to. And then you're really mad at yourself.
That was my idea back in 2015 or whatever it was.
Exactly.
Yeah, no, that's good. Okay, so get over your fear. What else? Okay, you're on a roll now, so keep going. What else should I have asked you? There is so much to Sue Malone. There's no way I could cover it all in 50 minutes, but I want people to know that you are a tremendous resource and an asset to this country because of your enthusiasm and your energy. And so I would love to, what else is out there for you? What else do you want us to know?
What else do I want us to know? I want us to be civil to each other. I know that sounds like Pollyanna, and don't trust me, I'm never going to be Miss America, and I'm not saying to be Miss America. But we need to go back to some manners. We need to be kinder to each other. Even if we're competitors, I'm competitive with a lot of different people, but you can still be nice to them. You can still have friendships with them. And women are notorious for it. They say, oh, look at the color of shoes she has on. They don't match. I don't care if you have pink shoes, red shoes, and purple hair. What does that person have to offer?
Yeah, no, that's really good. Civility.
Yep.
And that is one of the things that I appreciate about parking too. The central guys, they'll probably hate me for saying this. The central guys, I think they went through the door and, gosh, what was his name? Carol.
Oh, Carol.
Okay. So I think Monroe Carol made them sharpen their elbows in the morning before they got on the phones. The central guys they got a competitive streak in them that is legendary, right? But by and large, everyone else wants civility, and they're going to be, of course, everybody's competitive. I want to win, but it being nice, being civil, being respectful, those are all really important things to do. And even if you're a Hatfield or a McCoy, you can still be civil and respectful to each other. So I couldn't agree more. And if you're spending a good chunk of your time in Washington, that is one place where civility probably doesn't always reign.
But when you go into dinners with 6 and 8 people, even you're on the opposite sides of the spectrum, they are still kind. It's very interesting. When I first was first invited into a couple of those dinners, I thought, oh my gosh, I'm going to have an ulcer when I come out. It was as far from that as it could possibly be.
Yeah, I think that's the other key. And so now I'm going to give a pro tip away on myself. So if some salesperson's listening to this or somebody trying to negotiate with me, if I'm face-to-face with people, I roll over and show them my belly. It is just really hard to be mean and be adversarial to somebody nose to nose with them. I love being nose to nose, and social, being face to face is critical. And so you just told another story where I believe that's true, right? You get people in a room and you have witnesses, and then their nature, I'm sure, just comes out. These people didn't get where they are by being total jerks. There is some decorum there as well, I'm sure.
Exactly. Yes.
Oh, that's great. Okay. So let's have a little fun with what I call the lightning round.
Okay.
So the first question is, what phrase would you be known for? So if somebody uttered a phrase and they heard it and they knew you, they'd be like, oh, that definitely originated at Sue Malone's desk.
Go do it.
Go do it. That's a Sue. Okay, I get that 100%. Okay, that's good. Go do it. I love it. All right. So second question is, what is the hardest thing you've ever done in your life?
Oh my gosh, that's the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. I'm trying to think, what could it possibly be? Probably when I started the working capital program because everyone said it was going to fail. For 6 straight months, they kept telling me it's going to fail. It was going to fail. I was on airplane after airplane. I was, as you and I discussed it, I was in the cheap seats, hoping that no one would have the middle seat so I could lay down and go to sleep and not have to get a hotel room that night as I built the business. Building the business when everyone said the entire time it was going to fail.
Yeah. I would imagine you look back on that with fondness, but I can put myself in your seat. And particularly in the mid-2000s when we started Blue Lock, we were doing something really novel. And there were lots of naysayers, including the guy that funded the company. He said, this isn't going anywhere. You guys need to change. And I was like, no, I think we just need to stick with it just a little bit longer. I think it worked out. It was good. Yep. So good for you, sticking to it. Yep. I do appreciate most of the good stories. I've got a good friend who's working through a startup right now. I tell him all the time, I said, Corn, you are going to I can see you on stage telling your story, and you're going to tell people that you went broke 3 times and you had sleepless nights trying to figure it out. You're going to make it, and then it's going to make the best book and the best speaking gig that anybody has ever seen. And so I can hear that you're telling your own version of that story right now, laying in the back seat so you could lay down so you didn't have to get a hotel room. It's great.
That airline's not even in business any longer.
Yeah.
It was so cheap.
They've been swallowed up and spit out and all of that. Okay. So let's stick with your SBA job. Normally this is a parking podcast, so I ask people what's the hardest part of their parking job. But for you, what's the hardest part of your job today?
I'd rather answer the one on parking.
Okay, go ahead. It's your show.
The hardest job on the parking was my competitors, because I was a woman in the industry. They didn't think that I had
let's get into that
to do
sure.
it. And they wanted those lots because I had 7 facilities. And probably the worst mistake I made, I know I'm going back. I was offered 1, 2, 3 in San Francisco. The Rockefeller owned it at that time, the 3 Embarcadero centers. And I was offered a really good deal on it, Brian, a really good deal. In fact, they were going to carry the loan for me, but I was too afraid of the theft of how I could control the money. I did at that time, way back when, they did $1 million a month, each one of them. That was $3 million. And they were giving it to me at a bargain because they liked me and they saw what kind of operation I ran, and I stayed clean with the unions and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I turned it down. Worst mistake I ever made in my life. And I vowed I would never do that again. The person they sold it to, they tripled the price to him. He turned around and sold it for 4 times.
Wow.
Yeah. And I will never, ever do that ever again. I will fail before I say no.
That's
being frightened.
Okay. You know what? So what I love about that is that you internalize that. You're like, okay, I missed an opportunity, but I'm not going to miss another opportunity. Okay. But you did, again, this is good, because I knew if I had you talking long enough, you would touch some of the things that I knew was the topics that would be good for this podcast. So talk about being a woman in San Francisco, and you said your competitors were, just tell us the whole, lay out the whole story. And,
they're all men. And San Francisco is this big. Well, it was so interesting. I've got to be very good friends with the secretary of the union. I'm a member of the Teamsters Local 665. And it came time for negotiations. And they were going to shut the city down. So they thought I was a weak link. So they had me go in and represent the parking owners. And it started at 8:00 in the morning. And I'll remember everyone was smoking, and it was red velvet. And I thought, oh my God, they're all drinking Bloody Marys. So by the time we came to negotiations at 5 and 6 o'clock, I was the only one sober.
And you got it done.
And then they brought in the big Teamster guy from Chicago, and he threatened Dianne Feinstein that he was going to shut down everything, the buses, everything coming into the city. So really crippled the city. He had too much to drink too.
So you got it done. Yeah. Let's send Sue in there. It's the cannon fodder. And then, of course, you came out victorious.
She's a woman. And I was really young and really naive, but I knew numbers and understood what we were already paying everybody hour and on all the other benefits that added up. The hourly rate wasn't bad, but it was all the benefits. We were paying 5 cents an hour into some fund for education, but no one ever got an education.
Interesting. Yeah. I can, again, all these stories of true grit from Sue Malone it's been good. Okay. So my next question then is, if you could wave a magic wand and fix one thing, you could pick parking or you could pick your SBA loan programs or legislation, but you got a magic wand in your hand. What would you fix with a magic wand, with a wave of a magic wand?
I would fix it easier for, back to my core, for entrepreneurs to be able to get the capital so they could be successful. That was what I would. And at terms that work for them. Because you've got a lot of people out here that are putting money into businesses, but the terms are horrific. And the businesses won't succeed. And that's not fair. And I'm a tranche lender. You tell me that you're going to do this, then you'll get this much money. When you reach here, you'll get this much money. When you reach here, you get that much money. So that would probably be what I would do.
That's so good. I'm with you 45 minutes and it happens every time we're together. You tell these stories and I said, you draw me in because you're tough but fair and you'll go to bat for the underdog, but you'll be right there shoulder to shoulder with them to help them get something done too, which is awesome. Okay. So now when you're not parking cars, what do you do for fun?
My husband and I were big tennis players. So I do that. I hike a lot. I'm a big swimmer. I love the outdoors.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that. And I like traveling. I'm hooked on soccer in England now.
What game did you
Ted
see?
Lasso, though.
Yeah. Oh, you like Ted Lasso?
I didn't find him, though.
Oh, yeah. Of course not. Yeah, that's funny. But I hear that it's coming back for season 3 or 4 or whatever it is. They hauled him back. So is your son, does he live in London or did you guys both go together?
No. In fact, he just lives down it's a couple miles from me. And he always wanted to do it. And I said, yeah, I'm game. I said, I'll tie it into something else. And so I was able to do that, had meetings, and then off we went on Saturday.
Yeah, that's awesome. What a great story. Okay, last question. And of course, you can say your family, so you can get more than one answer. It doesn't have to be a single thing. What are you most proud of?
My family, obviously, yes.
Yeah.
I'm most proud of that. And that they're all independent. They all worked with me in businesses. I'll tell you a funny story is when I rolled out this loan program with Walmart or Sam's Club. And so it was rolled out on July 30th. No, excuse me, July 3rd. So after 4th of July, so no one paid attention. It was the second largest PR campaign in Sam's Club's history. That's how. So we were getting all these loans. So my little boy, my youngest, wasn't very big. So all I remember is him standing on a box at the copy machine making copies. And then it was so funny. I think he was maybe 12 or something, but he hadn't grown yet. And then he was answering the phones because our phones were ringing off the hook. And we had a lot of technology. And 3 of the people that called in said they would only talk to him. They didn't want to talk to anybody else. And I thought if they only knew you, right? And his voice was starting to change. So I was like, oh my gosh.
That is great. Okay, yeah. What's your son's name?
Holden.
I only want to talk to Holden. And you're like, you only want to talk to the 14 or 12-year-old?
Yeah.
Okay, obviously Holden's really talented. That's great. Okay, so all right, so you're proud of your family. What else? Mm-hmm. What else are you most proud of?
I'm proud of putting the legislation through and getting simple little working capital loans out for small businesses. I'm very proud of being part of that team and making our work. It's just not one person, it's a team. I never, ever take credit as one. Couldn't do it without a team. And we had a wonderful, dedicated team and people with some really good strategic foresight. So I'm very fortunate. I'm very proud of that because we made a difference for a lot of people.
Obviously, you get 41,000 in, but you've got 59 to go, 59,000 loans to go. Okay. If I can find a way, maybe somewhere in podcast land here, somebody will need an SBA loan and we'll help you knock one more down.
Love it.
All right. Thank you for joining me. If somebody does truly need some help or want to investigate doing something with you or with the SBA, how would they get a hold of you?
Just give me a call. I'm always around.
Okay.
Phone's always with me. I never leave it anywhere. I always have it. More than happy. And even if they just want to talk about it, see if it's a feasible idea or if I have a connection that will help them.
Yeah.
People have to help people.
Yeah. You will definitely have a connection to help them. That I know for a fact because I've seen it happen. So that's great. Okay. All right. We'll make sure that we put the website in the show notes. So if somebody needs to get a hold of you.
Thank you.
And they could I'm pretty sure they could probably just Google Sue Malone, SBA loans. They're going to find you.
I'll pop up somewhere.
Yeah, you will definitely pop up. Okay, then without further ado, I'm going to let you jet set around the world and helping small businesses and the underdog, and look forward to seeing you really soon on another Ocra board meeting.
Thank you, Brian. It was great fun. Thank you for having me.
That's a wrap on this episode of Harder Than It Looks, Parking Uncovered, presented by Parker Technology. Please leave us a review if you liked what you heard. Make sure you tune in next month as we continue to uncover tips, tricks, and best practices to manage what we all know is harder than it looks: parking a car. Bye for now.